Juliette Binoche is one of the most acclaimed actors of her generation, a BAFTA and Academy Award winner. She's known for playing complex characters on stage and screen.
J'ai plus de possession, plus de souvenirs, d'amis, d'amour ou d'attache. Tout ça sont des pièges.
From Three Colours Blue and Les Amants de Pont-Neuf to Chocolat and The English Patient, across a 40-year career, her roles have been incredibly varied. She brings an intelligence and emotional intensity to many of her big screen characters.
The heart is an organ of fire. I love that.
In this episode of This Cultural Life, the Radio 4 programme, Juliette Binoche reveals her formative influences and experiences, and reveals how it was seeing a play directed by Peter Brook that first ignited her passion for acting.
I felt so much joy watching it. I remember thinking, if you can give that joy, I want to give it as well.
It's tight. Juliette Binoche, welcome to This Cultural Life.
Thank you for having me.
You were born in Paris in 1964 and you spent your early years there. Both your parents were actors. What sort of work did they do?
Well, yes, they were actors, but they were doing other things to survive because it was hard to be an actor. So we're not poor, but we were very restricted. And my father was a communist and he was like fighting for the people. But yes, they were back and forth into directing and writing as well as acting and traveling.
So they were both very artistic people?
Yes, and struggling people as well. You know.
Right. Your parents divorced, I think, when you were 4 years old and you were sent to a boarding school with your sister. So that's a young age to be sent away. Was that pretty tough?
Yes, they separated when I was 2.5, and then we were put into different places. One was in a boarding school and another place was at my grandmother's, who separated my sister and I went to my aunt's house. So it's been a childhood that has been, traveling and emotionally not knowing where I was, where I was belonging, why I was there. So it was, and I think it helped me as an actress very much because it opens your heart in a way. It hurts, but at the same time, you've got to find a way to survive inside you. And so I was a joyful child. My way of surviving was playing and being joy by, feeling joy. And so I suffered, but also I was happy.
Even though you weren't, I presume, seeing your parents very often then?
When we were in boarding school, we saw them Saturday afternoon and Sunday, and sometimes we would send Sunday night to the boarding school. So they were probably rough years, but children, they don't know that. They understand that later on when you have your own children and you remember, okay, I was there then. You have to deal with it your whole life afterwards.
What sort of cultural education did you get at school?
A normal one, let's say, but I was educated by the passion of my parents, going to the theater as well as, going to see, musicians or going to see films or, or reading plays during Christmas time. So it was rich. I would say it was chaotic, but it was rich.
And did you say your father was a communist?
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
there was a political dimension to the upbringing as well.
And my mother was a feminist and an ecologist in the 70s. So I was, surrounded by, the consciousness of what's happening in this world.
On This Cultural Life, I ask my guests to choose the most important influences and experiences that have inspired their own creativity. And you've chosen for us a production of Alfred Jarry's Ubu Roi, which was directed by Peter Brook.
My mother took me, I remember being with her and seeing Ubu Roi. and I was probably 13 or 14. And I remember following this play and being mesmerized by it.
It's a really interesting production, very bare set, minimal props. I think there was a drum kit on the stage. And the play, Ubu Roi, is a satire, interweaving some of Shakespeare's stories as well. There's a bit of Hamlet in there and Macbeth.
There was a special spirit in Peter Brook's plays, you know, and his way of directing. First of all, is that your imagination really go strong when there's almost no object. It's not, you know, the set is not telling you where you are. You're just imagining. So I felt it was, and it was not that conscious when I saw it, you know, when I was a teenager.
You probably haven't seen that production since you were there in that theatre.
I haven't seen it since then.
You know, there is some film. We found it in the BBC
Amazing.
archive. Yeah. Let me just have a look at this clip here. Let me just press.
Tu t'es caché là aussi, tu n'es donc pas encore tué.
And all his actors have accents
Yeah.
because they're coming from different countries.
Yeah.
So he created a whole world. Can you see? This is the... He makes the
And so what is
animal.
This is a bear, is it?
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
It's a rug which turns into a bear.
Yeah. I love that.
Ah non! Ah! La grosse bête! On peut vraiment la manger, que Dieu me protège, que Dieu me protège! Nom de Dieu! Non, 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 c'est la ski qui l'attrape, ça va mieux.
It was something else. It came almost from, instead of showing off something, it was like going down into something. But I felt like just, it was working in me, for me. And so, and in the play, it's just the freedom, the you know, the tragedy and comedy all together. And at the end of it all, I felt so much joy watching it. I remember standing up. Everybody was standing up and applauding. And the joy I felt, that if you can give that joy, I want to give it as well.
Why does it move you so much?
I don't know.
do you
It's
think?
that I think I'm made like that. I'm made like that because it touches me, and I'm not controlling it. It's just happening. It's probably it's when you open yourself. It's as simple as that.
And that was a moment, seeing that production, that changed you as well, that made you want to be part of theatre.
It's more an awareness. I want to do this, and I don't know how or whether it's possible or not, because, you know, life is big and you had to... I needed to be found as well as I needed to find my road and how to, you know, to realize a dream. But at least I had the dream. So that's why going to see, you know, arts is so important, because it really can transform you inside.
So seeing this production was a transformative moment. It made you think, I want to do that. And then you started acting.
Yes, well, I did at school. My mother was my theatre teacher, and it was wonderful. It was very joyful. And then when I arrived in Paris, I was 15 with my sister. When I got my A-level, then my mother found a class for me where I met Vera Gregg.
Your next choice for this cultural life is your acting teacher,
Yes,
Vera Gregg.
Vera Gregg, yeah.
Yeah. So what did she teach you? How did she teach you?
Well, you know, when I entered her class, I was full of will, talk about will. And so she took me and she didn't allow me to go on stage. And I thought, you know, what am I doing here if I'm not trying a scene? And so after 3 months, I was working on a scene, and after a while she stopped me, like almost shouting at me, stop, stop. So I was a little surprised, and then she stopped me like several times until I was totally lost. And the turning point of being lost is very important for an actor, not knowing what you're doing and where you're going, but allowing the trust in you that it's okay not to know. It will find its way.
So when she was saying stop, stop, stop acting, she was encouraging you to strip away your self-awareness.
The knowledge I thought I had, the willing to prove I was a good actress. It was, just a way to listen to myself somehow, to listen to what's in me.
So for you, the acting itself is a profound creative act.
Absolutely. Otherwise, it's not worth it.
After you left drama school, you started landing some early screen roles. One of the first ones was a part created for you by Jean-Luc Godard in a film called Hail Mary in 1985. And of course, he was very much a god of French cinema, one of the prime movers, the pioneers of the new wave.
Encore te plaît pas?
C'est pas ça.
C'est quoi? Joseph. C'est elle.
Je sais pas.
So working with him, that experience, was that intimidating to work with somebody who was so revered at a young age?
Yes, it was, but at the same time, he was not that reachable. And he would change his mind all the time on the set, or sometimes he would come on the set and he didn't want to shoot, so we had to go back to our hotel, and we stayed there for months. But what I felt, he was respecting us because he was paying us quite well.
Paying you?
Yeah. and that it meant a lot to me because I was living, with my little roles, how I could, because I was not held by my parents. So it meant a lot to me. And I felt, he has respect in that way. He was not trying to be cheap.
I presume that style of acting that you developed at school was with a kind of an eye on the stage primarily. Was it very different, the technique of that you had to employ in front of the camera?
What was different is that my acting teacher, Vera or Jean-Pierre, they were trying to help me. Jean-Luc Godard didn't try to help me at all. He was, I would say he was almost... Not that I had a lot of scene in the film, I have very little scenes. But what I recall from, working with him is that he was always trying to shift things so you wouldn't feel comfortable, that you would feel a sort of malaise, a twist of not feeling at home.
Je me demande.
Quoi?
Toutes les femmes désirent quelque chose qui soit unique au monde.
Tu vois pas, je t'écoute pas.
He was trying to put a camera where it was not comfortable, but it was inventive.
Taking you out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. And that was, for me, the big difference of learning, all right, so no help from the director. I will come on set now, always prepared, not expecting anything from the director or the actor, and knowing my shit and being responsible of, I'm an actress and I know where I want to go with the piece I'm supposed to do.
Your next choice for this program is the experience of making Les Amants de Pont-Neuf, which is a love story about two young people sleeping rough on the oldest bridge in Paris. And it's set in 1989 against the backdrop of the bicentennial celebrations that were going on in Paris, fireworks going off. A breakthrough role for you, playing one of the two lovers, playing actually a painter who's going blind in the story. You've made around 70 films in your career to date, so why have you chosen this one?
Well, I was totally part of it because I was living with Léos Carax at the time, and we had
Who was the director and writer?
Yes, yeah, we had done The Night is Young, in English, Les Mauvais Sangs, and so we were living together, and as he was writing the script, I was painting and drawing him, And so he included that role, and I'm a painter in the story, and you know, we were fighting to make it done together. So it was 2.5 years of, you know, of trying to shoot it first of all. But before that, there was the writing side and the production side.
It was a famously fraught production, wasn't it? I mean, as you say, it took years to make. I think at the time it became the most expensive French film ever made up to that point.
It was expensive because Denis Lavant cut his hand. And so we had
Your
to
co-star.
postpone the shooting and make part of the bridge somewhere else. Also because it was very hard to have the bridge in Paris. And the whole story was taking place in that spot. The most expensive, I don't know, because a lot of jealousy going on in France about this film, because it was a special film. And it's true that Léos is different from other directors. He's not trying, you know, to please everyone, to be accepted. He's his own person, and I love him for that.
Take us to the experience of the shoot itself. There's a scene, incredible scene, when the two characters are in the Seine. They fall underwater. It's said that you almost drowned shooting that scene.
We were shooting in the swimming pool, and I had 14 kilos around my waist, and I had a wig on, I had the coat on, I had the, you know, all the shoes, and then I had to go down with the actor Denis Lavant, and we had a scene to play, and we had 2 scuba divers, you know, helping us, and I asked for the air, and the air didn't come, so I had no more air, and with the weight and the clothes and the 5 meters, I had to go up. I just fight. I fought for my life. I felt like really that's the turning point, whether goodbye life or whether I was going to survive. And during that time, I really had a sort of a clear idea that I say yes to life forever, and the art will be second. Because I think it's inside of me, there was a sort of a feeling that I'll give myself until the end to the art form, you know, acting. And so after I came out, you know, of the swimming pool, like, trying to breathe and all, the first assistant came and said, well, we're going to do a second take. And I'm like, without me, because that was just crazy. And I said, you've got to take a professional. This is not I'm not a professional for that. And so after that, it was very, I knew the line, I knew the limit.
But with Léos Carax, who you were working with, being directed by, and living with, because there was a personal and professional relationship, I mean, that must have put a huge amount of pressure on the relationship itself, didn't it?
Well, you know, when you live with the person you're working with, you don't think a grand director or grand this or that. You're just living together, and that's it. And there's a relationship. Yeah, it did put a lot of pressure. I mean, we separated during the shooting.
During?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Nothing to do with that near drowning experience. Was that had already happened, did it?
I think there was, before there were, you know, things that separated us. But it was part of it.
After Les Amants de Pont-Neuf, you went on to make Three Colours Blue with Krzysztof Kieslowski. You could have gone on in a very different direction. I read that you were offered a role in Jurassic Park, but turned it down to make the Three Colours films. So why not Jurassic Park? You had
because I was not playing a dinosaur, and
Right.
that's what I said to Stephen. I think I said yes to Blue before. I felt, you know, Blue was exciting, an exciting, deep story.
It's a beautiful film, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's about a woman who has lost her husband. He is a very famous composer, composing an anthem to celebrate European Union. and it's a film very much about grief as well, isn't it?
And how do you survive?
When you're choosing a role, in that case, it was that story, and it was Kieslowski. It was the chance to work with him in particular.
Oh, yes. Yes. He was wonderful to work with, very easy to work with. And we had a great time. We were laughing, giggling all the time. Coming from the East before the wall fell, like he would only do one take because he didn't have a lot of film. You know, it was expensive in his world for many years. So
he was Polish, wasn't he?
Polish, yeah. And so I'd say, go ahead. We can do at least 2, 3, 4, maybe 7. But he said, no, I don't need it. So I had to have deals with him, saying I had technical problems. That's why, I needed a second take, because he was allowing to do a second take when there was a sound problem or a camera problem, but not when the actor, wanted to do another one.
But maybe you were just nailing it first take every time.
Yes, but you want to explore. As an actor, you want to explore. It's about being revealed by the scene.
Qui était cette fille?
Quelle fille?
Sur les photos dans l'émission. Celle qui était avec Patrice.
Elle n'était pas au courant?
Dites-moi simplement, c'était son ami?
Oui.
Mais depuis combien de temps?
Plusieurs années.
He had different kinds of values that really made me think. And I remember I had to put my finger, on the wall and scratch my hand in the scene. And the makeup artist had a sort of protection for me. But the first time I just did that, not even a meter, and it was all gone out of my hands. So Kieslowski, the director, said, well, what are we going to be doing? And I said, it doesn't matter. I'll do it. Don't worry. And he started screaming and said, no way. He got really angry. It was the first time I saw him that angry. And so anyway, we found a way. But it was the first time I had a director fighting for protection. And it felt so wonderful.
The role that did make you a big international star was in The English Patient, directed by Anthony Minghella, for which you won an Academy Award in 1997, Best Supporting Actress. It is a beautiful role in which you play Hannah the nurse, and nursing the English patient, the title character played by Ray Fiennes.
This will help you. I must be a curse. Anybody who loves me, anybody who gets close to me, oh, I must be cursed.
What was the appeal of that role of Hannah?
You can't explain everything. It was probably a meeting between this role and myself. During the shooting, it felt I was on a cloud of love, kind of. Everything was, I was very frightened, I have to say. The first month of shooting, I remember being like super frightened. And then the second half, it was like pure joy. And that was a journey of the complexity of, of what it is to be in a war and what it is to have a patient and the responsibility of playing this role of many, many nurses.
That is such a loved film, and it went on to win so many Academy Awards. Were you aware as you were making it
Not at all,
that something
because
works?
just before shooting, the production Fox dropped it. So we were like orphans. We were just about to shoot, and then suddenly the money stopped. So it was like trauma. And are we going to be able to shoot this film? We had done the rehearsals. We were really ready to go. And Sousa and St. Anthony were like scratching their heads, not knowing how to deal with it. So finally they called Miramax and they loved the script and they started producing and we did it.
Even when the scenes were unfolding, when the camera was rolling, I mean, did you not get that sense from Anthony that something really special is happening?
No, we were trying our best every day and every second, we were shooting, but no, we didn't know. And we started with the Italian side and then they went to Tunisia to finish with Kristen and no, we didn't know.
In your latest film, The Taste of Things, you play a cook and the lover of a very famous French gourmet. The film is very much a love letter to haute cuisine, isn't it?
Plus de 20 ans à travailler ensemble. Je faisais des recettes et elle faisait des merveilles sur le feu.
Nous passons plus de temps ensemble que bien des époux.
Je vous le demande encore, Marion.
Combien de fois encore allez-vous me poser cette question?
So this film was very special to me because, first of all, I wanted to work with Tran Anung, and the fact he wrote a script that is so French and coming from Vietnam when he was 12 years old and he embraced the haute cuisine, the culinary art is a very French thing. So when I read the script, it felt like it was going into this world that he created.
It's a very tender relationship which is explored there and very subtly done as well. And the development of the food and the menu runs in parallel to this relationship, which is not explicit and not full on in a way. It's explored in a very tentative way.
Yes.
But you get a sense that he is very, very deeply in love with her.
Le bonheur, c'est de continuer à désirer ce que l'on a déjà, mais...
We were looking for the actor, and then finally they asked me, can we ask Benoît Magimel to shoot and do the male role? And because I had a relationship with him and we have a daughter together, and I said, yes, you can try and ask him, but I'm not sure he's going to say yes. And then finally he said yes, so it was like, oh, wow. So we're going to tell that love story, even though we've been separated for a long time, and it was not always easy in this separation. And so finally playing two lovers, in this realm of cooking was suddenly a challenge. It felt like a challenge before starting.
Vous ne vous ai jamais eu.
It's such a beautiful film. It's a film which also makes you very hungry. Oh, yeah. You just want to eat everything.
Yeah, it's true.
You've made such a huge variety of films, and the parts that you play don't seem to get any less interesting. I mean, why do you think that is in your case?
You're the outsider who sees, and I don't have explanation. I just have the passion of acting.
But you must be aware that so many women, so many actors say that, you get to 40, the phone stops ringing so often.
Well, I didn't wait for the phone to ring. I also go to the directors or, be creative in my own way. And you have to provoke things to come and choose something that you really want to do and not just do for the outside money or fame or things like that. I think you really have to choose for something that is meaningful to you. And sometimes you're in a film, you feel, the way it's been shot or the way, you're a little disappointed. You have still give the best you can because that's the rule. My philosophy, you go, you fight for it until the end. And if it's not good at the end, you try your best.
Juliette Binoche, thank you so much for sharing
very
your
much.
cultural life with us.
Thank you very much.